Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour stage number 3. Raleigh, North Carolina was where we were at, and we're actually fishing 2 bodies of water, which was Falls Lake and Jordan Lake. Jordan Lake was the first day of competition, and then I spent the next 2 on Falls Lake. So this time of year, you got pre-spawn and then fish trying to move into spawn. You got a lot of movement happening, a lot of different things happening. You've got to be prepared for a lot of change, even if it's just 1 lake. But we were fishing 2 this week. We only got a day and a half of practice, so things got pretty crazy this week. It seemed like practice blew by, and I didn't really get to figure out what I wanted to. So I did what I always do. I rigged up a ton of MHX rods on the deck. I had so many I was trying to step over them. But I do that because if I see something on the water, or if something happens, a shad flick, whatever I see, I can reach down and grab something for that situation and maybe trigger something in my mind or get dialed into a certain pattern. So I wanted a lot of different things ready. With that being said, come down to about 4 different rods that I really caught them on well. Try to show you each one. At Jordan Lake, I run a Tacticam trying to get really good footage. And Jordan really had an awesome day. Caught one almost 8 pounds flipping, another one over 5, and would have been phenomenal footage. But I tried to break my Tacticam on a tree limb, run one in the back, and so anyway, we didn't get any footage of the first day of Jordan, but caught the majority of those fish flipping, some on a spinnerbait, but mostly pitching, flipping. And to do that, I did it on a Elite Pro Series NEPS 90 HF. Now that's a 7'6" heavy fast rod, just a really good pitching setup. They weren't deep into the cover, so I wasn't needing something super heavy. The water was falling, so all the fish I was catching around the bushes and flooded cover, because Jordan was up about 2.5 feet, so you had a little bit of water into the cover, but it was falling. So fishing on the edge, I did catch a few on a spinnerbait that day, but most of them came on this NEPS 90 HF, especially that 712. It was just pretty cool. But that's a great rod, Elite Pro Series. 7.1 to 1 gear ratio reel. You need that speed, so when you set the hook, you can catch up to them. 20-pound Seaguar flipping, fluorocarbon. You're not going to break that stuff. It's really good stuff when you're flipping. That was my setup. We just went at it, Jordan, with the water being up. Used a spinnerbait, and majority of the time flipping something into that cover, trying to get a few bites. So we survived that. We came out of that round. That was the shotgun round, in 10th place. So then we move over to Falls Lake. So Falls Lake is a totally different scenario. The water was basically normal level. The water wasn't high at all. Pretty stable conditions. Didn't have that flooded cover, so it was more of a normal situation. So I had a lot of different things going on. What did a lot of my damage for me at Falls was a shallow runner crankbait, like a 6-foot diver. This one's chartreuse and blue. I did catch some on a crawl pattern. Didn't really seem to matter, just seemed to be I had to cover enough water. I put that on 12-pound Seaguar Braze-X, and then a 6 to 1 gear ratio reel, and then this was a CB 845 MHX rod. Perfect for this size crankbait. This rod's accurate. I can pitch it in and around little rocks and stuff, which is what I was doing with the crankbait. These fish are pre-spawn, trying to move up, so anywhere there was a little swing or channel swing or whatever that had some good rock on it, that's where I was putting this crankbait. CB 845. I only lost 1 fish in 2 days on a crankbait that would have helped me at all. The other ones I lost, maybe were smaller. I'm not even sure they were bass, but only one I saw that it was a 3-pounder that came off. So that's pretty good when you're cranking. It's a pretty good testament to the CB 845. The next thing I did, this was the same setup I used on Jordan for a spinnerbait, but I also caught a handful here on Falls on a spinnerbait. MB 873. Heard me talk about it 1,000 times. It's the best for a spinnerbait in my opinion. It's a little longer than some guys like to throw for a spinnerbait, but for me it's perfect. It's got the power to set the hook, and then it's got a lot of good bend to it. I don't seem to lose fish on a spinnerbait near as bad. 6 to 1 gear ratio reel, 17-pound Braze-X. The water was pretty dirty where I was throwing it. I wasn't worried about them seeing it. I thought 17 was pretty good. 873 for the spinnerbait. And then finally, I caught a 5-pounder on day 2, which really helped me propel and make it into the knockout round. And then I caught a few fish each day on a jerkbait. And this jerkbait, is one of my favorite ways to fish, but when you're fishing a jerkbait, a key to it is a rod. You can't just have any type of rod. You need enough action or enough stiffness in that rod to jerk the bait, but you also need to not be able to pull the treble hooks out of a fish once you finally hook him. So for me, the answer to that is an Elite X NMB 863XF. It's basically a 7.2 extra fast rod. You don't have to put a lot of effort into the rod. I was really snatching this bait this week, trying to create a trying to get their attention because the water was colored, but you don't have to put a lot of effort into jerking with an extra fast rod. That's why I like this setup. In fact, I've actually cut this one down 1.5 inches to get it a little shorter. I've got some that are the same length as what they come from the factory, but just a great all-around jerkbait rod. This is the time of year you need a jerkbait rod. So you need to call a mud hole, order one of these rods, build it, get to throwing a jerkbait around. You're going to catch some big fish. Caught a 5, 6 pound, 5, 6 ounces, 5 pounds, 7 ounces, something like that. That really helped me make it into the final round. So that's what I caught them on this week. A lot of different stuff. A lot of different rods on the deck, just trying to make it work. I never got dialed in, and that's why I probably didn't make it to the championship round. Ended up 24th here this week, which is a good tournament, but I just never got dialed into one thing. So I mean, I was fishing some on the main lake, I was fishing some in the pockets, just trying to make something work, which we all have those tournaments, and I was thankful it turned out like it did. But that's my setup. You guys go out there and catch some pre-spawn bass. It's a wonderful time of the year to get out there, but we'll be back stage 4 at Chickamauga in a couple weeks.